E agora, então, eu quero apresentar o nosso muito ilustre convidado e palestrante de hoje, que é o Christopher Vogler, que é um dos principais consultores de histórias de Hollywood, palestrante sobre roteiros, filmes e mitos. Ele já trabalhou para as empresas como Disney, Fox, Paramount e a Warner. E nesse trabalho ele participou do desenvolvimento de roteiros de muitos grandes filmes que a gente ama e conhece, como Rei Leão, o Clube da Luta. Ele dá aula para escritores e roteiristas de todo o mundo e agora também aqui no Brasil, ao vivo para gente. Ele é autor desse livro aqui, que se chama A Jornada do Escritor, Estrutura Mítica para Escritores, que é publicado no Brasil pela Seiva em uma edição ampliada, que é um dos livros de referência mais importantes sobre escrita de narrativas, onde o Christopher traz uma análise inovadora e pioneira que ele desenvolveu a partir dos estudos do Joseph Campbell em O Herói de Mil Faces, e faz uma investigação do padrão heróico e como ele se manifesta nas histórias e na psicologia humana, apresentando também dezenas de mitos e arquétipos, que é também um pouco do que ele vai trazer mais pra gente. Então, agora eu vou fazer também uma apresentação rápida da Seiva, que é, a escola e editora que está organizando e promovendo essa masterclass com o Vogler, que é um ecossistema pensado para qualquer pessoa que tenha o desejo de criar por meio de qualquer expressão. E a gente faz isso, então, como a Dani estava adiantando, também por meio de livros, cursos, de uma newsletter diária e gratuita chamada Aurora, que é uma curadoria das principais notícias do universo criativo, que eu convido todo mundo a conhecer e assinar. Mais uma vez, ela é de graça. Você vai assinar e receber todos os dias, segunda a sexta. E também a gente tem um clube que reúne uma comunidade incrível, maravilhosa, que faz com que tudo isso seja possível, que também está aqui nos Zoom nos assistindo hoje. Esses aqui, então, são os nossos livros para vocês conhecerem. A gente tem 7 títulos até o momento: O Arte-Medo, Como Ser Artista, Experiência Psicodélica, Um pouco do Mundo Todo, que é o nosso lançamento mais recente de uma artista brasileira chamada Helena Obersteiner, e 3 livros que são voltados para a escrita, então, Anatomia da História, do John Truby, o Como Criar Histórias, da Ursula Le Guin, e, claro, o nosso maravilhoso Jornada do Escritor, do Chris. E além dos livros e dessas outras iniciativas que eu comentei, a Seiva promove aulas online gratuitas todos os sábados, como essa, em geral pelo YouTube, mas hoje aqui pelo Zoom, em função da nossa tradução simultânea. E nesse mês de setembro, todas giram em torno desse universo dos livros, e o motivo por que isso está acontecendo é muito especial para a gente, que é porque a gente está com as inscrições abertas para o curso Vida do Livro, que a gente fica muito feliz de poder dizer que é um dos principais cursos de formação atualmente sobre o mercado editorial no Brasil e que agora em 2025 está completando 10 anos, gente. Já foram mais de 10 turmas, mais de 2.500 alunos formados que passaram pela vida do livro, e é um conteúdo pensado para quem tem interesse em seguir profissionalmente nessa área, mas também qualquer leitor ou pessoa curiosa interessada nesse tema. As aulas são super acessíveis, eu tenho certeza que vocês vão se divertir bastante. E a proposta é que a gente faça um passeio, então, por toda a cadeia produtiva do livro, de ponta a ponta. E a gente vai fazer isso em 4 aulas ao vivo, que já vão começar no próximo dia 9 de outubro. Esse ano elas vão ser às quintas-feiras, das 7h30 às 10 da noite. São essas aí, da ideia, como fazer um livro, sobre conversar e vender, e o que vem depois, onde a gente vai falar um pouco sobre os horizontes para o futuro. As aulas são com o Daniel Lameira, que também está aqui com a gente, que é o fundador, professor e organizador da Vida do Livro. Ele também é fundador da Seiva, cofundador da Antofágica, e trabalhou por vários anos à frente da direção editorial da Aleph. Enfim, aí mais de 20 anos de experiência no mercado. Mas não são só essas aulas também, né, Dani? Vida do
É.
Livro. Você quer falar um pouquinho?
Não, eu ia falar que as minhas aulas, claro, eu tenho super orgulho, mas acho que a coisa mais legal do Vida do Livro são essas aulas que vocês vão mostrar agora, assim. São mais de 30
Uhum,
aulas gravadas com alguns dos profissionais, né, Lu, que a gente mais admira
sim,
nesse mercado. Vamos mostrar eles para as pessoas.
vamos. Essa é a nossa biblioteca, gente, que a gente vem formando já desde 2022, mas ela também é atualizada a cada ano. Então, esse ano a gente vai ter 7 aulas inéditas, que estão marcadas aí, que é com a Aline Valek, com a Marta Ribas. A gente vai ver os professores
É,
aí. Esse ano a gente vai ter aula inédita também com a Tatiane Leite, com o Nelson da Sextante, com a Diana Passi, com o André Palme, e também vai ter uma aula inédita do Gustavo Lembert da TAG, que a
Eu
gente
acho
está
que vale.
atualizando.
Desculpa, Lu.
Pode falar.
Não, acho que vale só. Acho que a gente tem vários autores aqui hoje, né? Então acho que
Uhum.
vale a gente reforçar que é um curso para formar profissionais para o mercado, mas que grande parte dos alunos que já passaram são autores, né? E que querem se profissionalizar, entender como se colocar nesse mercado, como abordar uma editora, como falar com um agente literário. A gente tem, por exemplo, a Lúcia Riff dando uma aula que eu adoro, o Luiz Schwartz, né, fundador da companhia, Charles, falando do livro dele, Gustavo da Tag. Então, assim, quero muito convidar quem aqui às vezes está escrevendo roteiro, tem interesse em histórias. Eu acho que é muito válido, claro, vocês se formarem como escritores, mas se querem lidar com o mercado, esse conhecimento do mercado faz muita diferença para quem quer alcançar ali uma carreira, transformar esse sonho de escrever em algo palpável e real. Então, é, acho que é muito bom proveito para quem é autor fazer também esse curso.
Perfeito. Obrigada, Dani. E é isso, gente. Esses são nossos professores incríveis, maravilhosos. Então, a ideia é trazer realmente esses outros pontos de vista, né, para que vocês saiam com a visão mais ampla possível, e a gente possa desmistificar esse mercado. E esse ano a gente também tem 200 bolsas abertas. Isso é uma informação bem legal, se vocês quiserem também nos ajudar a compartilhar para quem possa ter interesse. São bolsas integrais ou parciais para pessoas negras, trans, indígenas ou em situação de vulnerabilidade socioeconômica, que vocês podem se inscrever por meio de um formulário que está no nosso site. E quem mais tiver interesse, então, em conhecer e fazer parte da edição desse ano da Vida do Livro, eu convido a todo mundo a entrar lá no vidadolivro.com.br. A gente vai adorar receber vocês na turma. E pode passar, Nay, por favor. A gente, então, está vendendo, né, tudo isso, todo esse curso com as aulas gravadas, aulas ao vivo, certificado, enfim, em excesso de um ano também, essa biblioteca por 599. A gente, na verdade, vai segurar esse preço da pré-venda especialmente até segunda-feira, para quem está nos assistindo, com esse cupom que é o VDL100, que vocês podem usar lá no carrinho de compras. É, Acho que é isso, gente. Dani, quer falar mais alguma coisa?
Só vou responder as pessoas do chat que estavam perguntando se as aulas ficam gravadas. As aulas ficam gravadas, né, Lu? Da última vez foi por um ano, não sei se esse ano é a
Sim.
mesma coisa. Então, você
Uhum.
pode ir consumindo isso no ritmo que você preferir. Algumas pessoas, então, já voltando, perguntaram de interpretação da tradução simultânea. Então, já avisando aqui que tem gente nova que entrou. A gente está com 500 participantes, Lu.
Uhum.
Talvez tenha
Sim.
até mais gente querendo entrar aí.
Uhum.
E quem está, já passou aqui 502, 504. Então, quem quiser ativar a tradução simultânea é só criar em interpretação é, e escolher aí português, que aí as nossas tradutoras você vai ouvir a voz delas e a do Cris em volume mais baixinho, a delas
Sim.
mais alta. O pessoal está perguntando sobre a bolsa. Ontem repassei para algumas pessoas, mas tem no site do Vida do Livro tem um formulário que você clica ali e se inscreve para concorrer à bolsa. Aimee, você não precisa, a Milena perguntou se precisa estar nas 4 aulas online obrigatoriamente. Não precisa, elas vão ficar gravadas também para quem quiser consumir. E deixa eu só ver se tem clique em More, em tradução. Bom, é isso. Então, Lu, segue aí.
Legal,
Beijo, pessoal.
gente.
Obrigado.
Cris, a gente tem mais de 500 pessoas nos assistindo ao vivo. Que incrível isso. Então, Chris, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We are
Excellent.
very honored to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Bom dia, everyone. It's so good to have a crowd. That's wonderful. My whole life has been about being excited by ideas, about stories. I'm thrilled by them. I still, after all these years, I still feel wonderful things in my body when I'm watching a good story. And all that I have worked to learn and understand um, really has its value when I can share it with someone. This has always been my desire, is to spread these ideas and to share them with a lot of people. So this is a great opportunity for me. So I'm going to share my screen now, and let's see, go to my my system here. There we go. Okay. So, I call my idea the writer's journey. My book was called in English, The Writer's Journey. And I know how it's translated in Portuguese. And, that's the idea that the heroes in our stories are often, usually, going on journeys, but the writer goes on a journey too. And I'm interested in that and how they are in parallel. And everything you know about what happens to heroes in stories, somehow it happens to you. Heroes leave their ordinary surroundings, they go out into the world and they face difficult things, and those things change them. And the same is true for us anytime we want to write a story. You can't really write a story, make a film without changing yourself and your own perceptions. So it's the journey of the heroes, but it's also the journey of the writers. And the image I'm showing you here is something about my own journey. Just to quickly tell you, I grew up in the middle part of the United States in the state of Missouri. And when I was a little boy, my father decided to leave the city and build a farm, go out, buy some property in the country, and start becoming a farmer. And kind of an unusual path. But I, from the age of about 10 years old, lived on this farm and was very far away from Hollywood, but I felt connected. I felt connected with the whole world of stories, and I wanted to find out about it and learn as much as I could. And I had the feeling there must be some kind of book or scroll or secret tablet somewhere that told you how to tell a story. And so I was on a quest. I was like the heroes in the old stories who were looking for something. I was looking for the patterns or the description of what a story is and how to make it have this wonderful effect that it had on me, that I could feel things in my body, thrilling experiences in my body when I watched a good story. So this was my path as I went out into the world, and eventually did go to Hollywood by way of the military, actually. I joined the Air Force during the Vietnam War, and they could have sent me to Vietnam, but instead they sent me to Hollywood to make films for the military about the space program. And that was my interests beginning to be fulfilled, a little bit of understanding how these simple documentaries were made, how you tell a simple story for that kind of audience. But then I went to film school, still on my quest, still looking for the pattern or the answers. And I found it in the work of a man named Joseph Campbell. And I'm sure some of you are aware of his work. He was a big influence on George Lucas originally. I think he was the first one who noticed the power of this. And I happened to discover Campbell's work in film school at exactly the same time that the first Star Wars movie was coming out. So I was so excited. I think I found the map. I think I found the secret code that tells you how to tell a story. And I think it's useful, not just for academic purposes, not only for mythology, ancient stories from the past, but for modern storytelling, for good commercial stories that would reach a lot of people. And George Lucas also had discovered this, but he was a little ahead of me in his production. So I was both excited by Star Wars, but also a little jealous that somebody got there before me. So what I'm going to try and share with you is some of these principles that I've discovered. If you have ever done any animation drawing, you know that all the animated characters that we love are made up of very simple shapes. The animators use circles and blocks and triangles to create these figures, and the audience doesn't really see that, but it's useful to reduce the complex shapes into these simple shapes that you can manage. So we're going to be giving some of those simple shapes. You should also look at this as a set of tools, and the tools are made to do certain things, but they can also do other jobs. And a good artist or a good craftsman, somebody who does work with their hands, soon learns that there are many things you can do with a hammer, and hitting nails is one of them, but there are many other tricks that you can do. So don't feel that you are stuck only doing things a certain way. This toolbox is yours, and it's to be used in a very creative and free way. So if you want to get something for your reference, this is a place where I have put an outline or a handout of my essential ideas. So you just look there at my WordPress blog at chrisvogler.wordpress.com. And I don't contribute to that very much, but there I have put some articles and some reference matter. So that's a good place for you to find it if you want that for your own use. Okay, now I'm just going to quickly ask the question, what is a story? And I think everyone comes up with their own answer to this question, but I have answered it for myself in several ways. Stories are so complicated, you can't just say they're one thing. They do a lot of jobs for us, and there are a lot of ways to describe them, but these are the sort of basic ways that I have come to understand what a story is and how it works and why they are so important to us, so valuable for us. So the first thing is that every story is a metaphor, that the person watching the story or reading the story is always making a comparison of the characters in the story to my own life. Every one of us is deeply self-centered. We really only care about ourselves, to be honest. And so when we look at a story, we want to know, how is this story about me? What would I do in this situation? What can I get out of this story for my own life, for my own uses? So the story becomes a metaphor of my life. I have many times looked at Star Wars or other adventure films and thought, well, this is a good model for me in my own professional life or in some difficulty I'm having, some medical challenge or difficult thing I have to do. I look to those adventure stories and fantasy stories as models that have clues in that they have hints about how I could operate in my own life and do a little better. So second thing is I realized, along with Joseph Campbell, that a story is a journey. It is always a journey in some sense. You may not physically move from one location to another, but you go from one state of being to another. You go from a certain set of conditions in your life, and then something happens in the story, and those conditions change. And so you have to travel, you have to make a journey to adjust to the new situation. So even if you don't physically move or geographically move, you are still going somewhere, you know, on a journey. And I just point out here that there are in stories at least these two levels of the inner journey and the outer journey. The outer journey is usually something physical that the hero wants or needs, and the inner journey is something also that the hero wants or needs, but in an emotional sense. So there's something physical we're trying to get, a treasure or true love or something external, but it also affects us on the inside, and we're seeking something. Every character in a story is looking for something to complete them or to fix something that's wrong in the balance of their emotions. So look for that. Look for the, be aware that there's two stories going on, an outer story and an inner story. So a story is also an orientation device. It's like a map or a compass that gives us some kind of a pathway through life. Again, by this metaphor idea that we take from the stories, from the behavior of the characters, some guidelines for ourselves. I also believe a story is a device for raising the consciousness of the audience, to make them more self-aware, to know themselves better, and to understand other people better, and to become more conscious of their place in the world, how their behavior is affecting other people, and to generally try to make people rise up a little bit in their awareness, to make them more awake. And then finally, I say stories are medicine for the soul. They really have a power to heal us, to bring people together, to, I think, heal the wounds of society. And oh man, do we need this now? We really need things that bring us together instead of pushing us apart. So stories can be that kind of healing medicine. They have a lot of power. And, you know, every day I do a lecture like this, I try to think of what is this about today? What is the theme for the day? And today's theme, I would like to be about connection. How do you connect the audience to the characters in the story? How do you bring people in and make them feel that this story is really about me and that I understand the situation of the characters and I care what's happening to them and I worry for them and I'm happy when they win and I'm sorry when they lose. So I want to look at the ways that we make those connections. And one of my basic things, and this comes from my young days as a hippie, we used to say that everything is about vibrations. It's all about the vibes, man. And this is a reality that everything we see and hear, everything we touch is atoms vibrating at a high rate. And this is what reality is. It's a series of vibrations. You can hear my voice now because I'm vibrating a column of air that's vibrating something in the microphone, that vibrates something in your earpiece and vibrates things in your mind. And so there's a connection made there through these vibrations. The audience, though, comes into your story with a lot of things vibrating in them. It's noisy in their minds. They have a lot going on. They're worried about things. They're upset about something. They are afraid of something. So there are all these things making noise in their minds. And your job as the storyteller is to get into their vibrational rhythm and bring it into some kind of a waveform like this, where they connect with your hero, and what happens to the hero in some almost magical way is happening to them. So when the hero is up, they feel up. When the hero is down, they feel down. And in a simple way, you do this over and over through the story. You bring them up, you bring them down. You bring them up higher, you bring them down lower. You bring them up very high, and then you bring them very low and make them think the hero is going to die, and then you bring them back at the end, if you want a happy ending type story. You can reverse this for a tragedy, but basically, in most of our stories, we want the hero to win. We want the world to be saved. We want people to learn something positive from our story. So it probably would take a shape like this. But the idea is to get the audience vibrating in harmony with your characters. So what happens to the character is happening to me, and you should take them very high and very low and make that go more and more through the course of the story until it goes off the charts. It goes off the scale of what you can stand, and you push people to their limit and allow them to feel a deeper feeling of fear than they ever felt, and then a deeper and higher feeling of excitement and happiness than they ever felt. So this is what we are aiming for in our stories. And we want to take the audience from this condition, this kind of vibration, where they're distracted and they're bored and tired from the pressure of life. You want to take them from this to this, where they are hypnotized and they're like children who are seeing things for the first time and have this childlike sense of wonder and also a new appreciation of themselves, new understanding of themselves. And this is a kind of a map of the targets for your emotions in your story. This is something I borrowed from the whole world of spiritual practice in Asia, mostly in India and Japan. You find this idea of the chakra system, the thought or the metaphor being that we have different centers organized around the organs of the body. And in meditation, you are trying to wake up these centers and connect them and get everything going to make a complete human being, fully realized, someone who's operating on all levels and fully human. But these also could be looked at as targets for your emotions. So if you have a horror story, let's say, maybe you're aiming for that lowest chakra, the root chakra, it's called, where you want people to tense up in fear. Maybe you have a story that's about love and romance and erotic things. So then you're stimulating the sex chakra, that second one from the bottom. Maybe your story is about struggles of power and you want people to feel something in their guts about getting power or losing power. Maybe you want to stimulate the heart and have people tighten up with fear that they won't get love, but then open up when they do get love. And the audience feels these things in their body if you're doing your magic correctly. And then the throat is about expression about laughing, crying, shouting. Often in stories, a character is unable to say something, to say their truth, to admit something they did wrong, to say something like, I love you. They have trouble saying that. And it's a big moment in the story when they break open that chakra, that area of the throat. And the audience also explodes sometimes with laughter or even shouting at the screen sometimes when you're very, very involved. Then the third eye is where the perceptions happen, all up in the head. You know, you have your eyes and ears and mouth so you can taste and hear and see things. But also there is this idea of a center of consciousness that can open up when you get insights, when you get impulses that you don't even know where they're coming from, but they do help you to have a better view of your life and your relationship to God or to other people. And then finally, at the top is this crown area. And once in a while in a movie, you get this feeling of, this is the secret of life. Now I understand everything. Now I have a new picture for my life. And it really feels like your head has opened up. And you might actually feel things in your spine. This is very important to me because it told me at every stage of my life how to understand a story and to know when it was working. I know when a story is working because I feel something in my body. I often will feel if the story's right, if the story's true, I will feel a shiver down my back. And when somebody says something in a story meeting or in a question answer session that seems true and beautiful, you can feel this in your body. So I encourage you to study your body and to notice in movies when you get a feeling, a shiver down your arm or down your back or tightening up or relaxing. Pay attention to those, and these are things you're trying to do for your audience. Okay, I'm going to quickly talk about these two things that are important to tell a story and connect with an audience. The audience needs to know that the story is about something and that it's unified by one idea. There's one human quality that we're studying in this story. This is my belief. You can challenge this, but I say a story should be about one thing, and you should know at some point in the process, you should realize my story is really about something like, is it about love? Is it about loss? About betrayal, loyalty, friendship, revenge? You know, you decide for yourself what your story is about. And you might change your mind about that as you develop the story. But the audience, I think, understands and is helped by you knowing what your story is about and making sure that everything in the story tells me something more about that one word or one idea. And then you develop it a little bit. That's what a premise is to me, a more developed expression of the idea that might be stated like this. If you take this attitude about love, it will lead to these consequences. So some kind of position or choice that the hero makes about friendship or loyalty or revenge will lead to something. It'll lead to some kind of positive or negative consequences, and the hero will learn lessons because of that. And the thing that's great about the theme and the premise is that they give the story a kind of a spine, like a fish that has a skeletal structure and many organs, but they're all connected to that spine. So I say you should use this as a test for your story. Ask yourself, does everything in this story contribute to my understanding of the theme, of the one idea? If I've decided I'm going to write about love, then every scene and every word in the story should have the idea of love in it, and trying to discover or explore all the possibilities about that quality. And here's an example. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, in some Shakespeare's plays, it's not so easy to say what is the theme, but it's very clear in Macbeth. It's about ambition, but it's about a particular kind of ambition, which is ruthless, cruel ambition, selfish ambition. So he's not ambitious to be king so he can make life better for people. He's eager to be king so he can make life better for himself and get more power. And Shakespeare makes that into a premise, and he says that that kind of ambition, ruthless, cruel ambition, inevitably, eventually leads to destruction. So there is the theme, ambition, and the premise, a certain kind of ambition leads to destruction. So now we're going to change gears a little bit and look at story structure. And it's a little bit like architecture. When you build a building, you have an intention. You want the audience or the person using the building, entering the building, to feel something. And you build this structure with this in mind. What is the effect I want to have on the audience, on the user of this building? So in the ancient world, they always built their temples on a platform, and you had to climb some steps to get in there. And it gave you the feeling that you were rising up to heaven to meet the God. So they were thinking always about the effect on the audience or the user when they built their buildings. And the same thing for us. We need to think always about the audience and how to connect up with them. So what I'm going to be presenting today is a series of maps and compasses. This illustration was done by my commission. I hired an artist friend to make a series of these pen and ink sketches that illustrate the different areas. And it turned out very, very well. I love collaborating with other artists. And so I had a great time devising this series. And I think they have a lot of power. They're like something from the ancient world. Very, very powerful. So when it comes to structure, we have to salute at least these couple of people. Aristotle was witnessing the growth of drama before his eyes in ancient Greece, and he was the first one to make some good observations about the magic of drama. And he gave us the idea that a story has three basic parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that seems very simple, but it was kind of a breakthrough in its time. And then I want to make a salute to this man, Sid Field, who wrote a book on screenplay and made an observation after looking at about 2,000 scripts. He came to a conclusion that they all had this inner structure that looks something like this. This is the outline of the three-act structure. You see, it's actually four movements, but we refer to it in Hollywood. This is kind of the standard vocabulary of storytelling to talk about the first act, second act, and third act. But the second act is usually pretty long, so it really needs to be broken into two parts. You might think of these as parts of a meal. You know, you might have the soup first, and then the salad, and then the main dish, and then dessert. But you don't have them all at once. And you deliver them to the table in a certain order to create a nice meal. So the same thing here. We try to organize the story into some bite-sized pieces so the audience knows, okay, this is the beginning, then we're going to develop and learn more and go deeper and put the heroes through more difficult things, and then we're going to wrap things up and bring it to a conclusion. And if you notice the red line that goes up and down, this again is bringing the audience up with the hero and then bringing them down and bringing them up higher and down and bringing them up and then very, very low before finally releasing them at the end with a good feeling. So now we come to my mentor, teacher, Joseph Campbell. I was lucky to meet him a few times, just at book signings or speeches he was giving. But he knew what I was doing in Hollywood, and he sort of gave me his blessing. He said, shook my hand real hard and said, "Young man, you go with this. This will take you a long way." So he knew that the work was continuing and growing into the world of movies. And he wasn't thinking about that when he wrote his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. But he was happy to see that Hollywood took it seriously and found it useful. So here, now we get into the hero's journey. And the first thing you notice is that it's a circle. So you can relate it, though, to that diagram I showed just before of the straight line. It's the same diagram of 4 movements, but it's been bent around into the circle form. And that's a good thing because it suggests that a story is a cycle in someone's life, and that the wheel of life goes on, and there was a wheel before this, and there'll be a wheel after this, but we're just focusing on one movement or one journey within someone's life. And you notice that the circle is divided by this strong horizontal line. And Campbell said that when he looked at many, many examples of stories from mythology and fairy tales, he found that they almost all take place in 2 different worlds: an ordinary world that the hero knows and a special world that's new and strange. And it might be that they are equal, like this diagram shows. You spend as much time in the special world before coming back to the ordinary world. Or it could be that the special world takes up a lot of the story. And so that line might have to move upwards and make the ordinary world just a little moment at the beginning and a little moment at the end. But that's for you to decide the exact balances of these things. But Campbell was very good at giving names to things, and he identified 4 names for the operations that are being performed in each of these movements. And those are separation. So the first thing is to get the hero out of their ordinary world, so they're ready to go on the journey and leave that comfortable place to go to someplace new that's unknown and scary. So first is separation. Then there is descent. The heroes fall or go down or go up, or somehow they travel from what's known and comfortable to something unknown and uncomfortable. and that has that feeling of falling or descending. In English, we say, I'm falling in love. So we're going down into an area that is unknown and that seems to have no floor under it. So we're kind of floating when we fall in love. And the heroes have this feeling in the stories often that I've stepped off the edge of something I know into a big pit or unknown hole in the ground, and I'm at this point falling. Now, there's a line at the very bottom, and that's important. We'll get back to that. That is a moment of extreme danger for the hero, maybe even death, or they think they're going to die, or the audience thinks they're going to die, but it's a moment where death is present and could be dangerous for us. But the next movement, after you face that death possibility, is initiation, where you almost have died and this transforms you. This causes a change in your consciousness and your idea of yourself. And you now have new powers, like in the Star Wars movies, every time Luke Skywalker confronts something dangerous or he is injured somehow, he loses his hand at one point, he gets something in return. He gets a better control over this thing they call the Force. So when you face your fears, when you face death, there is a reward of new power. And this is a period of learning about that new power and your new identity. And then finally, you have to return. You have to go back to your ordinary life or go back into operation after visiting this scary, deep place. You have to go back and figure out how you have changed and how you might change the world with this new knowledge of yourself that you have learned on the journey. So there is a quick view of the four movements, and this has a lot of resonance with other things, particularly right now I'm aware of this system we live in where we have different seasons. I'm showing you a northern hemisphere version of this. Of course, all these things are reversed for you. We're about to enter our autumn period. We're just at the bottom here with the September equinox. And for us, this is the beginning of the fall season, heading into winter. But for you, it's springtime. So you can reverse this in your mind. But it has a great similarity to the hero's journey pattern. And I think in the ancient world, people thought of the year as a kind of a character who had a journey that went around the sun. And those turning points are very, very important. And the ancient world paid a lot of attention to those and celebrated the exact moment when we passed from one to the other. This year, it's coming up on Monday. So this is a good time for us to check in. I think it's like at these times of year, at these turning points in the story of the year, something opens up and we have an opportunity to look into the future. So I myself try every turning point to think about what I've just come through in the past and what I'm going into in this next 3-month period. So there is a kind of an echo here of what goes on in stories. So now let's get into it. I departed a little bit from Joseph Campbell's pattern because I was speaking to a specific audience of filmmakers and film executives and screenwriters. And Campbell wasn't thinking about movies. You can use his ideas, but he didn't think of them with movies in mind. And so I simplified and adjusted and changed some titles and terms. But it's very much in the spirit of Campbell, but this is my own interpretation. So the first thing, and this is true in Campbell too, is to establish some kind of ordinary world. So this is my ordinary world, as I say, where I came from. And it's now the farm has been sold. Somebody else lives there, but it's still a source of inspiration for me. I remember it and I go back there in my mind and think about the long, long journey I have had from that little farm. And here you get the feeling of the simple life on a farm. And it only begins to tell you the kinds of things you have to do at the beginning. The beginning is very complicated and very demanding on the storyteller. You have so much information you have to present to the audience. It's like you're dealing out cards, and they have to know certain things in order to connect with the hero and feel that what's happening to the hero is happening to me. So there are some techniques, and just quickly I'll mention, you want to introduce the character and give them an entrance. Actors like to make a big entrance that makes a statement about who they are. And what's good is if you can show the hero the first time we see him or her doing their characteristic thing. What is the thing that defines their character? In other words, someone maybe spent their whole life by lying. They got along in life by lying. They learned early that they could get things by lying. So let's see them telling a big lie at the beginning. Or maybe they've survived by being seductive. So let's see them being seductive. Or maybe their technique to survive is being funny. So let's see them being funny. So show the hero doing his or her characteristic things. You also have opportunities to tell me something about the hero's nature and get the audience on their side, supporting them, wanting them to win. And one of the techniques comes from this wonderful book, Save the Cat, where it's even there in the title, that you let the hero do something to save someone else or to save some creature that's in danger, to show that the hero is sympathetic and that I want to be like this person. So you might show them helping someone or protecting someone so that we have some sympathy for the character. Or you might show them as victims, and that gets sympathy and makes a connection that they are maybe accused of something they didn't do. That's a big one for me. I don't like being blamed for things I didn't do. And it's a hard situation in life when someone decides you did it and you are trying to say, no, it wasn't me, but they don't believe you. That automatically wins the sympathy of the audience because we have all been in that situation. So look for things like that that make the audience connect up, that shows that the hero has things that I have too, like dreams and fears and wishes, that they have weaknesses like I do, that they have strengths and powers like I do. So you're using this opening section to introduce the character and tell the audience the basic things they need to know, and also show how the character relates to the background. You have choices here. You can show the hero standing independently in the middle of the frame, saying, I own this world and I am the master of this world. Or you show them a little tiny figure off to the side while a huge crowd is over here having fun and the hero is isolated and alone. Or they're part of their world and they're happy there and they don't realize that it's all going to fall apart in a second and they'll have to leave that comfortable place. But these are your choices in the beginning. You're sort of setting the initial settings to make these connections with the audience. And let us know how they relate to their background. Do they want to stay here forever? Are they afraid to leave? Or is it the case that they can't wait to escape from this place? So let me know, as an audience, let me know how the hero relates to their ordinary world. Okay. So the next thing that seems to happen in most stories, and I should say, I'm giving it to you in sort of the normal course of things, but you are very free in telling your story to mix these things up and do it all out of order in your own creative way. But the audience tends to digest these things according to what they know best. And so they will look for what was the opening situation. Even if you start deep in the story, they'll be wondering, what was the ordinary world? Where did the hero come from? Why is the hero afraid or ready to make a change? And they'll put it back into this frame, even if you creatively try to mix things up. But I'm giving you sort of the average of stories, that most stories have this kind of inner structure. So the next thing is there should be a call to adventure. And this is from Campbell, the idea that something happens or there is something missing from the story, something is needed. That's a common way to start a story. Someone is taken away, someone is lost, and the hero is called to find them. Or there's been a murder, and the hero or the detective has to solve the murder. Why did this happen? And so the journey begins. And we like to know that there's something here that is wanted and that there's something at stake, that there is a danger. If we don't take up this call to adventure, the world will probably be destroyed. So it's up to us. It comes down to the hero to fix things or to go on the journey to find something that's missing in their own life or in their world in order to restore the balance. And the image here that my artist drew is of this magic horse that appears in your doorway. And, you know, it's answering your wish. You wish to get into that castle way back in the background there, but you don't know how to get there. And then suddenly this vehicle appears of, in this case, a magic horse. And it's gesturing with its head, get on, and let's ride. And I will take you where you want to go. So the story sometimes has that feeling that, oh, you wanted to learn something about yourself. You wanted to fix your world. You wanted to fix your life. Well, here's the way. And so the audience connects with that because we all wish for a clear statement that this is your purpose. This is why you're here and what you're supposed to do. So this takes many forms in mythology. This is the myth of the goddess of springtime, who was kidnapped into the underworld. And, you know, some heroes are unhappy about this call to adventure. It makes them uncomfortable. It scares them. They aren't ready for it, as we'll see in the next stage. But some are eager to go and ready to go. And this character doesn't seem to mind very much that she's being taken away into the underworld. It looks like kind of a happy adventure for her. She's waving goodbye to her mother and doesn't seem too upset. And there it is in Star Wars, which was so helpful to me when I was first studying these ideas, because there was the map. There was Campbell's plan, pretty perfectly laid out in the first Star Wars movie. So here is that call to adventure. Obi-Wan Kenobi, we need your help. And the hero, Luke Skywalker, is hooked. As soon as he sees this magic figure appear, he's involved and he wants to be part of this journey. And also he desires to leave his boring planet and have a life of adventure. So the next thing we find in myths and stories all over the world is the heroes will refuse the call, or they're reluctant. They put up a fight. They have doubts. They express their fears. And this is therefore an audience reason. The audience needs to be scared a little bit. They've already identified with the hero. What's happening to the hero is happening to me because the hero has won my sympathy. I appreciate them. I care about what happens to them now. And so if they're afraid to go ahead in the adventure, I'm afraid too. And often you'll hear it in the dialogue. The hero will say, "I'd love to go on your adventure, sir, but I'm afraid I have a lot of homework to do. I have to wash the dog. I have a very important meeting later. Or, you know what? I was on an adventure last week and it didn't go very well. So I'm not doing any more adventures." So you'll hear different things in the dialogue that express the fear, and that needs to be there. There are some stories where the hero isn't afraid and they just are so eager to get into the story they can't wait, but somebody else will express the fear and remind the audience this is dangerous. Somebody else will say, "You can't do that. It's too dangerous. Don't you know everybody who went before was killed? Nobody has ever been able to do this difficult job." So the audience has this little feeling of fear along with the hero. And that usually doesn't last very long. It has this feeling that you're trying to get into some place like this tower, and they're shooting arrows at you. So you feel blocked for a while, but eventually you pull up those arrows and shoot them back, or you put them together to make a fire and burn the people out so you can get at what you want. So the refusal doesn't usually last very long, but it's almost always there. So how do we overcome this fear? Stories tend to do this job by introducing another force or character that I call the mentor. And here I was changing Campbell's language a little bit. He talks about the wise old man. kind of archetype, but there are many different versions of this. There could be a wise old woman in many fairy tales. There's a fairy godmother, and it might not even be a person at all. You could be guided by your dog. You could be guided by the patterns of clouds in nature. You know, there's all kinds of possible guides for you. But I chose this term mentor because it's not loaded gender-wise. It's neither male nor female, and it doesn't even have to be human. It's just some kind of a guide for you who represents your higher possibilities and who can guide you on the path. And it comes from one of our great stories, the Odyssey. And there is an actual character named Mentor who guides the young hero, the son of Ulysses, the hero of the Odyssey, Odysseus. The son's name is Telemachus, and Mentor is a servant in the household who's watching the son while the father is gone for 20 years, fighting the Trojan War and making his way back to his home. And the son needs guidance. So the mentor gives him his mission and overcomes his fear. And this is the essence of the archetype of the mentor, is that they give something to the hero. It might be something you can touch, like a magic weapon or a map or a magic horse, or it could be something you can't touch, like a bit of wisdom or a bit of advice or some training that doesn't seem to mean much right now, but later it will prove to be very, very important. And the hero will be grateful later. The mentors show up in movies. You know, we have one movie, The Wizard of Oz, in the United States that is almost a kind of a religion for us. We see it at every holiday. We've memorized every line and every song. And it's really a deep part of American consciousness, North American consciousness. And there are mentors all over the place, some good, some not so good, but mostly they're nice and they want to help you in both worlds, in the ordinary world here in black and white, and in the special world in full color. There are these helpful, magical figures who give the hero something that she needs, some advice or some magical equipment, in this case, the red shoes, the ruby slippers that give her magic powers. Now, there are certain cases where the main character doesn't seem to have a mentor. It's hard to imagine Clint Eastwood paying attention to anybody, older person, wiser person. He's got it all inside him. But the mentor idea is still there in the inner code of behavior that these tough guys have created for themselves. And you'll often see it in a film when they're in a difficult situation. They simply look down and think a minute, and then they look up and they say the line that decides something. And so they are consulting that inner mentor, that inner guidance system that keeps them on the right track. So now we have done the kind of homework we have to do to get the audience attached to the hero, understand what they want, and see how they've been helped or not helped by some kind of mentor. And now they have to cross a threshold or a border between one world and the other. And this could be just a snap of the fingers, a short cut from one world to the other, or it could be a long sequence where the hero is traveling to this special world and learning things along the way. But I went back to the farm I grew up on, and it's been developed, and they have put down trails and bridges over the river and so forth to kind of civilize it. But there are still some places that have this sort of mythological feeling of crossing from one world to another. And you see this in a lot of stories where there is a moment where the heroes go over a bridge, or they cross water, or they go downstairs or upstairs. They launch into space, but it signals something to the audience. It's there for the audience to tell them the preparation is over, and now the story really takes off and can really begin. And it should have a feeling. It should have this feeling of release, that now all that fearful stuff is over. There will be other scary things, but right now we have the feeling of at least we're moving, and the story has really begun, and we're now entering this exciting, new, different, special world. Okay. And then what happens when we get in the special world? We meet different kinds of characters there. Some are friendly, some are not. And the hero has to be careful here, deciding who is an ally, who is a friend, and who is a danger or a potential enemy. So the hero might be put into a situation. Let's say they go into the town and they go to the local bar or the saloon, the cantina, and they find that that world is usually polarized. There are two camps, the good guys and the bad guys, and the hero has to figure out who's a good guy, who's a bad guy, and whose side am I on. You can take an element like this and make a whole story out of it, as they did with Casablanca. The whole story takes place in this gambling den. It's a bar. It's a place where people gather to drink and have meals, but also to gamble and to do intrigues and have romances and make deals. It's a kind of a stage or an arena where the whole story is acted out. All the action, all the important action, except at the end, takes place in this one location. And there it is again in Star Wars. There's the famous cantina sequence in Star Wars. And when I saw this scene, I said, yeah, this is a Campbell inspired movie, because Campbell speaks about these places where heroes learn the rules of the special world, and they figure out who's on my side and who's somebody I have to watch out for. So next thing up is a period of time in the story that can be a little bit long. It can take some time to get to know the characters better. And I just call this section the approach, because we're not at the center. We haven't gone in that cave yet, but we're walking up to the entrance of that cave. And it could take a long time to get there. And things are happening while we approach. We're getting to know ourselves better, and we're getting to know the other characters better. And our first impressions about them and about ourselves are starting to fall apart. And we are seeing deeper into the other people around us and also into ourselves. So it's a period of time where you might do comedy to get to know that side of the characters better. You might develop romance here to maybe surprise us with a love situation that we didn't expect. There might be spying and betrayal that goes on here. So we might be suspicious. This is another thing that happens in this part of the story, that the writers are trying to make you wonder about the characters. Is this one to be trusted? Is that one going to betray us? Who has the real skills to survive in this special world? So there's a lot of learning that goes on at this stage. So I just give this the general name of getting to know you. And in the Disney movies, there is a kind of a dynamic comparison of two different ways of seeing. There is a big long shot view in the Disney movies where there's a lot happening and the characters are flying all over the screen and there's a lot of action. But that's contrasted with scenes where you get the big close up and you see their eyes and you see their emotions. And that's what we're talking about here, is that, yes, we're in a big landscape and there might be a lot of action, but we also get in close and get to know the characters a little bit better in this phase. Okay, and all of this has been preparing you to go into that cave. And here's an example from mythology. This is a hero called Cadmus, who brought the secret of writing to the Greeks. And he's just about to go into that scary place. And there's some kind of creature there that maybe is worrying him a little bit, but actually it's a good positive mentor. It's one of those mythological beasts called a centaur, who's part horse and part human. And they often in mythology would be the teachers, for the mentors for the heroes, would teach them all the skills they needed. So there stands the mentor ready to guide him into the cave, and is carrying some kind of a scroll. It's probably a map that shows where the hero will go and where the dangers are and where the treasure is. So the hero is just about to take the plunge into that unknown world, within the unknown world, a deeper version. So now we get to the center of the whole thing, which is this word that Campbell calls ordeal. I don't know what the equivalent word would be in Portuguese, but I'm sure you have such a word. But the idea is a major, major test. Like if you were taking a college class, this would be a midterm exam, maybe halfway through the course. You'll give a big test and you have to pass this test or you're in danger of failing or dying. You still have time to recover, but it should tell you, hey, I'm in danger. And it should have the feeling you see in the illustration, that your swords are broken and chipped, and there are monsters and terrible things all around you. And if you cut off the head of one of these snakes, it'll just grow another one. So it should look and feel very, very bad, very threatening to the hero. And if you don't have a moment like this, your story is failing. It's not really performing unless somewhere in the middle section, it doesn't have to be right in the middle, but somewhere in that middle section, we should tempt the audience to think that the hero is going to die or fail. And in the ancient world, they loved scenes like this, and they created many wonderful stories about battles between the gods and the giants, between the humans and the centaurs. There was a lot of conflict and battles and wrestling matches and struggles, and the audiences in those days loved them just like we do. And this part of the story should give you a taste of death. In The Wizard of Oz, our heroes are trapped by this evil witch, and she tries to set one of them on fire, a man made out of straw, so he's going to burn very well. And so it looks very bad. But the hero, Dorothy, this little girl, throws water on the witch and to put out the fire on her friend. But the water hits the witch, and the witch melts and dies. And our heroes are afraid that the guards around the witch will attack them now because we killed their queen. But in fact, they kneel down to her and they give her the thing she came to get, which was the broomstick of the witch that she uses for her magic powers and uses it to fly around. So they've been sent on a quest to get this thing, and they get it. So there is this two-part experience of the little taste of death and then a rebirth, because we survive the thing. We face death, and that transforms us. And usually it's something physical that's threatening, but it could also be something emotional. And here you see it in Hitchcock's movie Notorious. And I love Hitchcock because he is so intentional. Everything in the frame has been considered and is aiming at those places in the body that I showed you, those chakras. He knows where the targets are, and he knows how to hit them. And right now, he's showing you two lovers, but they're involved in a spy plot. And Cary Grant is the American spy who is sending his lover to marry a Nazi spy in Argentina after the war. And she's supposed to seduce this dangerous fellow and give secrets to the Americans about this Nazi plot. And she's pleading with him, don't do that. Don't make me marry this horrible man and be a spy. Let's run away together. And Hitchcock has done this very intentional thing of putting a shadow on Cary Grant's face. And the interesting thing is that Cary Grant is getting a phone call in the middle of this love scene from his boss. And the boss is saying, launch the mission, send her into this dangerous situation, and just see what happens with the shadow on Cary Grant's face. As he picks up the phone, the shadow gets a little higher, their lips come closer, they're almost going to kiss, but then the message comes, launch the mission, and the shadow completely covers his face like a mask, and that's not accidental. That is Hitchcock's intention. So we must look for ways to make invisible things visible to the audience. That's part of the art of cinema, is making invisible things like feelings visible to the audience through symbols, through representations like this, through how you use light and shadow, how you use symbols and props. It's a wonderful thing to study how Hitchcock does it. And he does a different thing in every movie, and it's just terrific to study somebody who's so skilled. He has so many good skills as a storyteller. So now we face death, and that's a big shaking moment for the audience. But there is always a second part of this, which is seizing the reward. Like, you face death, man. So what do I get for that? What do I get for facing death? And that is a variety of things, but it could be taking some kind of treasure. It might be simply knowledge of myself, that I thought I was a little person who was scared, but in fact, I have courage and I can achieve great things. So the hero will find some kind of treasure and collect it at this point. It might be an occasion for celebration. It might be a love scene. Those are some options. It could be some treasure that you take, some physical treasure that you take away from this dark place. Or it could be illumination. There are a lot of campfire scenes in movies at this stage where the heroes are thinking about what happened and kind of understanding themselves a little better. And often there's a moment where heroes are looking in a mirror and they get this moment of self-awareness or self-reflection. The mirror is almost a door that opens into a new view of the character. So it can be another way to make the invisible things visible. And now it's time to start the finishing of the story. And there's a change in energy. And, you are almost home. You can maybe even see home ahead, but there's still a steep path and a lot can happen and there's still danger. In some stories, it's the feeling that you're being chased by a monster. There are a lot of chase scenes, and they're there, I think, for a reason to stimulate the audience. American films back in the silent days often had a lot of speed and velocity. They moved fast at this point in the story. There would be horses galloping. There would be trains running fast. People would be rushing to get somewhere. And that helps to raise the energy level of the audience. There's one in mythology, and there are many examples like this where one character goes chasing after another character. This is a young woman who has fallen in love with the god of love, Eros, or Cupid, but she broke one of his rules and turned on the lights while they were making love. And so he ran away from her, and she had to spend the rest of the story, the last act of the story, chasing him and winning him back again. So some stories have this feeling that we still have work to do and there's still danger and things need to speed up to get the audience excited again. And then just before the end is a critical moment called the resurrection. And this could be more than a moment, it could be several scenes, but it's the climax of the story. And it should have the same feeling as stage 8 of death and rebirth. So the heroes maybe have died, but they wish for all these things. They wish to be saved. They wish to be redeemed. They want to be purified. They want to be purged of all their poisons and all their mistaken ideas. They want to be transformed. And the audience wants that feeling too. It's thrilling. It's a great human wish. There should be and can be very exciting fight scenes or showdowns at this point. In the classic adventure movies, there might be a sword fight or a battle, but it could be a courtroom scene. It could be a family argument. It could be the breakup of a relationship. There are many possibilities, but it should be an exciting moment with suspense where we don't know which side is going to come out as the winner. And it's the climax. It should have that feeling of exploding emotions and reaching that point on the graph going up and down where it goes so low and then so high that the audience can't resist anymore and they have an emotional outburst or a catharsis. I should mention that not all stories have their happy endings. There is the possibility of tragedy. This is from a story in the Odyssey. This statue is about a priest in the city of Troy who committed an error. He made a mistake on page 10 of his story, and the gods remember it and they punish him near the end of the story by sending this snake to drag him and his sons down into the ocean because he offended the god of the sea. The god of the sea sent this serpent to draw him into the sea and punish him for his mistake. So sometimes that's how a tragedy works. Somebody does everything right. Maybe they're skilled, and maybe they're given honor by the society, but they have made some little mistake and it eventually catches up with them and causes them big problems. But most of the time you get the catharsis of laughter or crying. And this is what we're aiming for. We want to create these extremes of emotion so the audience can really feel something and feel like they've gone through a change that they can feel in their bodies, in the organs of the body. And then finally, we need to put a cap on it. We need to bring it to a conclusion and a statement, really, of what this was all about and what have we learned. And sometimes it's actually in the dialogue that someone will ask the hero, what did you learn? And they'll say, but sometimes it's just something we can see. We can see they're happy. We can see they're better arranged in their life. Maybe their posture is better. Maybe the hair and makeup is better, or their attitude is better. And they can do something they couldn't do before. So you might need to go back to the beginning of the story and think about what is there that I can put there in the beginning that they couldn't do. And now, because they've been through all of this exciting, dangerous stuff, now they can do it. And so the hero has that satisfaction, and we have the satisfaction of seeing them learn this lesson. And we take some of that for us because we're selfish and self-centered. So we want to know what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? And that's what Campbell calls the elixir. Elixir is a word from Arabic that means a magic potion or dust that has this power. It can heal all wounds. It can solve everything and fix up society or a person's life. And we're all looking for that elixir. And like I say, we really need things like this now. So there you have it. And don't forget the inner and outer journeys and the idea of questions. You know, it's all about questions. And when you're building a story, you raise these questions. Will the hero get what they want? Will the hero go where they want to go? Will they learn what they need to learn? Will they get this inner thing that is missing? And those questions, you notice the question mark is shaped like a hook. So the questions hook the audience. They draw the audience in. And if you're creating a series, let's say, you want to raise these questions at every level. What is going to happen next in this scene? What's going to happen that affects the life of the hero and the hero's world in this episode? what will happen over the course of this whole season, what will happen in this whole series to their way of life, and finally, will their way of life continue, or will it have to change, or will it end? So these are useful questions. There it is in The Sopranos. You're left guessing, and you're left with questions right up to the very end of the show. And this is the very last frame of the whole series. And it was brilliant the way the creators of the show did not answer the last question. And they handed it to you, to the audience, to figure out for yourself and decide the fate of the hero that you have identified with and come to feel he's like me. So I'm going to skip that one and just end up over here. I just would finish by saying this has been a long journey for me, and I'm just so happy that it never ends and that I go on and I find new corners and new bridges to cross, and it's thrilling. And I just want to pass on to you something that I learned along the way, which is the idea of you're on a path as a writer, as a screenwriter, as a storyteller, as an artist. And that path knows some things, and it's your path. And it's your own special way to go through the world, and you should trust that. So that's my final thought for you, is trust the path. Trust the road that you're on. All the choices that you've made, all the things that have happened to you got you to this place, and it's good. And it's right. You're right where you're supposed to be. Wherever you are on the journey, that's where you're supposed to be. So trust that and just keep marching. So that's my quick vision of the hero's journey. And I know we probably are pressing the edges of time, but I'm very happy to answer any questions or open up the discussion now.
Boa, demais, Cris. Obrigado. Muito legal ouvir você con- contando um pouco mais sobre sua pesquisa, e depois de, né, a gente ter editado o livro é muito especial também para a gente ver isso. Então eu queria deixar o convite para todo mundo também ir atrás do livro, está disponível aí em todas as livrarias, A Jornada do Escritor. A gente não vai ter tempo para muitas, para já ver que um monte de gente aqui levantou a mão. A gente tem também nosso horário combinado, a gente pensou em fazer algumas. Eu já tenho aqui algumas anotadas, mas talvez a gente possa chamar alguém. Mas aí já vou fechar. Que você consegue, Cris, responder mais algumas com a gente?
Yes.
Tá bom.
Sure.
Tem uma aqui que é importante, deixa eu só lembrar de quem que fez, que a gente anotou. Lu, você lembra aquela primeira?
Sim, do Romeu, que é roteirista e é professor de roteiro também. Eu vou ler ela aqui, em português. Cris, a pergunta do Romeu, que é interessante, é como que você responde para as pessoas que às vezes podem ter uma impressão de que esse arco que você ensinou pode ser lido como uma receita de bolo, mas o Romeu já quer deixar de antemão avisado que ele discorda completamente, mas também quer ouvir qual que é a sua visão sobre isso.
Yeah, that's a good metaphor, a recipe. And I don't want it to be that. But, you know, if you are serious about being a cook, or just anyone who starts playing around with food, you do best when maybe you follow that recipe in the book the first time you make the cake. But the next time you roll up your sleeves and say, oh, this is my opportunity to be creative and to have some fun, So I'm going to start changing the proportions, and I'm going to be free about what I do here. I also would compare it to the notes of the scale, the musical scale, the colors of the rainbow, the letters of the alphabet. These are all tools that we use to paint and draw and tell each other things. And we have perfect freedom to use the colors any way we want. There are some rules about it, and you can make nice designs by following those rules, but the real art is when we're free and we connect with something inside us that tells us, make it green here, make it red there, not according to some recipe or book. So yeah, I hear that question a lot. I understand the challenge. You could look at this whole system and say it's just a bunch of cliches. And I don't disagree with that in a sense, but it's how you put those together. And this is the same with the alphabet of the notes of music, is that it's just amazing to me. I've lived so many years, and I can still hear a new song that puts those same few notes together in a different way, and same with the story. So there's never any fear that we're going to run out of new ways to do things that will be new to the audience too.
Boa, perfeito. A, a Amanda, eu acho que é a Amanda que também levantou a mão ali, tinha mandado uma pergunta no WhatsApp. Amanda, você quer fazer?
Hi, thanks for the complete masterclass, Chris. It was very, very interesting. I would like to know how this could be applied to journalistic writing, it being documentaries or journalistic podcasts or books, where the story doesn't revolve around one single character or main
Yes.
storyline, but rather many different shorter stories to try and prove one final point. Is it possible to use elements of the hero's journey in cases like this?
Yes, I have done a lot of work with documentary filmmakers, and sometimes it doesn't really apply for them, and that's okay. But the thing I've learned is that the audience tends to take things in this way. And it's like the only way they know how to take in a story. So even if your story is chaotic and doesn't have all of these markers or stages, the audience will go looking for them, and they'll put them in even where you were not considering. So they'll surprise you sometimes. They will organize it for you. And I learned this in my own film school days. I learned about Campbell and I rebelled. And I said, this is too easy and too simple. I must fight this. I must be a true creative artist. So I made a crazy samurai movie that was like a big dream sequence, and tried to get away from logic and motivation and all these hero's journey ideas. And then I showed it to the other film students, and they said, oh, it was so interesting how you created the hero's journey, and you found this, they saw things in my chaotic design that they put back into the frame of the hero's journey. So it's difficult to escape these things because they're part of the design of our world. And we see ourselves in them, and we see the world in them. It works, and it does work in documentaries. I'm working with a documentary team right now on the subject of teenage depression and suicide. And they came to me specifically because they said, we know we need this organization. We need to think about the journey of the characters because the audience is going to look for that and put that in even if we are not doing it for them. Okay.
Legal, gente. Vamos para mais algumas perguntas. A gente não vai ter tempo, infelizmente, de fazer todas, mas a gente vai tentar encaixar algumas aqui. Gente, só um lembrete rápido. A gente tem aulas abertas, então, aqui na Seiva todos os sábados, para ficarem sabendo dessas aulas e de outras novidades também. Assinem a Aurora, que é a nossa newsletter gratuita. Ela chega todos os dias, de segunda a sexta, na caixa de entrada de vocês. Vai ser muito legal. Gente, então vou chamar agora o Baião para fazer a próxima pergunta. Baião, você pode falar? Vou te habilitar aqui.
Hi, Chris. It's very nice meeting you. You're kind of a hero of mine. And my question is about change, about the change of the character when he enters the hero's journey.
Yes.
Some movies, weirdly, the lead character do not change. Like on the first Back to the Future, Marty McFly, he does not change. His father does. So a few huge hits. I don't know how they make to make this work, but the lead character does not change. How could you explain that or help us? It's kind of unusual, but it happens.
Yes, it is unusual, and it does happen. And it's an interesting variation. And the audience is very well educated about these things now. And they, I think, like when somebody turns the whole frame and does something a little different like that. There's a name for this kind of character who doesn't change. You can call that a catalyst character because it's like something in chemistry. You add salt, let's say, to a solution of water, and you keep adding salt and adding salt and adding salt, and the salt settles at the bottom, and it doesn't seem to change. But then one more grain of salt goes in, and suddenly the whole thing crystallizes. So the salt hasn't changed, but the water has reacted, and it creates this new condition. So sometimes you have this sort of strong, they usually are very strong characters who found a way to live according to some rule they've figured out that works for them. And this is their job, is to go around and touch all the other characters. There's a story when I was first working at Disney. There was a film, and I've forgotten the title, but it dealt with a fellow who comes into a family. He's a bum and a street person, and he's a wreck as a human being, but he's a vivid, lively character, and he changes everybody in the rest of the design. Some fall in love with him, some hate him. He pushes everybody's buttons, and at the end, he walks off just like he was at the beginning, but everybody else changed. So it's a good variation on the form. It's refreshing to the audience. So it's a good question.
Obrigada, Cris. Eu queria chamar também para fazer a pergunta a Janaína, que participa do nosso Clube Seiva, que é uma grande amiga. Jana, vou te habilitar para fazer essa pergunta. Pode ser em português ou em inglês.
Hey, Chris, it's such a pleasure to be here listening to you. My question is related to the club. So we have this Seiva club, and one of our colleagues, Marina, she was talking about how we are used to consume everything inside this journey. So films and books and everything inside this journey. and how it could generate frustration inside ourselves, because it's hard to see our own life as a hero's journey. But I was wondering, do you see this connection? Do you see our lives as a hero's journey of some kind?
Yes, this has been a suspicion of mine from the beginning that these ideas had value for screenwriters, yes, for the movie business, yes, but the much greater value is for people's lives. And this is why we are so interested in movies and why it's such a big business, because we are always looking for answers and messages and hints and clues about how to improve our performance in life. So we look to stories for that. But I can tell you that as soon as I put these ideas out there, people started coming to me and saying, "This is great. I understand what you're doing for movies, but I'm not in the movie business. I'm a travel writer, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a nurse." And they said, this journey is what I found in my profession or in my job, that it really helps me, and they want to tell other people about it. So they take this idea that was designed for movies and they apply it to all these other things. And it's been used to help people in prison writing programs. It's been used to help soldiers coming back from the war, traumatized by the war, to tell their story. Everybody has a story to tell. And everybody looks at their experience and the difficult things they have to do in their profession as a journey, and it helps them to get orientation and to give some names to these parts that we all go through in our lives. It's helping me right now. I'm having serious health problems, not me, but in my family, and I definitely use it. And I will even draw pictures for the person who is sick and say, "You're going down a well and now you're in a tunnel and there's a big hole in the middle of the tunnel. Don't fall in. That's where the danger is. Keep living, keep fighting, and get to the other side where you will be okay again." So the journey has its value in screenwriting, yes, in making movies and novels and so on, but in these other areas too. And also in all the arts. I mean, people are coming to me now and saying, "I've created a whole symphony based on the 12 stages of the journey." Or people have made albums with 12 songs that reflect this pattern. So I'm confident that it's useful to people. Thank you for the question.
Obrigada, Cris. Pessoal, a gente vai ter tempo para mais 4 perguntas, então eu vou chamar aqui quem está aparecendo na ordem do Zoom, que é o Jorge, Natália e o Ian. Mas antes, Cris, eu só queria também fazer uma pergunta que foi enviada pelo Ricardo Chiesi, que é um professor de roteiro aqui da Seiva, também um grande admirador do seu trabalho. Ele perguntou se você consegue enxergar esse arco da jornada do herói nas séries, né, nas temporadas de seriados para TV ou para streaming.
Yes, that's something I touched on right at the end with these questions that go from the microscopic level of the scene down to this very big picture of the whole series. And I'm seeing a lot more streaming shows than I am movies these days. Most of what I watch is long form series. And one thing I observe is that they have different, what I would call narrative strategies about how to tell the story. And what they'll do is sort of break the story into different themes or subjects. And in one season, for example, in a show maybe that runs 5 years, in one season, they would just tell you about the origins of the story, of the person's problem. And then the next season, they would deal with leaving the comfortable world and going into some other universe. And then deal with some failure in the third year, some terrible setback. And then they recover and they start to work their way towards their happiness again. And then finally, it's resolved in the 5th year. Or another narrative strategy would be to look at a set of characters, an ensemble of characters, and each season deal with a different one, or each episode deal with a different one. I'm watching a show now where they're doing this, and at the beginning of each episode, they start out with the backstory of one character, and they take that whole episode to just study the problems of the one character. And then next week we'll go to somebody else. So there are some wonderful choices you have about what strategy you use to tell a longer form story. It's an exciting new area.
Legal. Jorge, você quer fazer a sua pergunta?
Hi, Chris. That was amazing. Thank you. Back to the metaphor on the receipt. How do you see machine learning helping as a tool or even replacing a writer?
Yeah, I hope not replacing. Let's say that if it replaces human writers, then I don't really want to see those stories. It's already, that cat is out of the bag, as they say, and you can't put it back in. You can't put the toothpaste back into the tube now, and people are using it, and great if it works for you. But I say, I spent my whole life making an artificial intelligence up here. And so I'm going to see how long I can go without referring to artificial intelligence. I have used it, and it does help sometimes with research. It's very, very good for that, or for posing questions, for asking what if, and kind of using it as a helper to ask questions about your character. Let's say, you can present that to AI. You can say, if I have this kind of character, this is their background, what would they typically do? Or you can ask, here are some basic ways to solve a story problem. Give me something I didn't think of. So I think there's a value that, we think in patterns, and the machine has been taught many more patterns. So sometimes it can shake up your assumptions and maybe give you a new view. But ultimately, you put that aside, and it's you and the page, you and the audience. But I'm glad you asked.
Thank you.
Perfeito. Natália.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for the class. While you were talking about the stages of the hero's journey, you mentioned in Meeting the Mentor when Dorothy gets the red slippers, the ruby slippers.
Yes.
And then because of that, I got The Wizard of Oz stuck in my head. And right right after meeting the mentor, the character crosses the threshold. So does that mean that Dorothy, for example, would cross the threshold when she walks down the yellow brick road or when she gets to Oz? And I'd like to know if one of them represents her inner journey and one of them represents her outer journey.
Yes, I think for me, it's a very specific moment when the house comes down in black and white and she opens the door and suddenly she's in this world of color. But each of these stages can be expressed as a single shot or a moment in a story, or it can be a piece, a sequence. And that's how it is. She lands in that world. She actually experiences that stage 6 where there are tests and there are allies and enemies. So she knows there's bad witches and she knows there's good witches, and a mentor gives her a gift and then pushes her down that road. So that whole sequence has a lot going on. Several of the points are touched on there, but there's that wonderful feeling in the song that we're following the yellow brick road and here we go. And then, the rest follows. And then the last part of your question again, what was that? About inner and outer. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that crossing the threshold could be either getting to us or following the road. Or if all of this represents, the different stages going back and forth in different sequences.
Yeah, for Dorothy, it's a two-headed question. She has to get back home physically and has to go through physical challenges and dangers, but inside is another journey, which is ultimately to realize that she needed something, she needed to learn things from the other characters. They had qualities that were not developed in her. The courage of the lion, the kindness of the straw man, the affection and loving feelings you get from the man made of tin, and the wizard. She learned something from everyone. And all those things go into her spirit and make her a new and more complete person. So
Thank you
that's
so
her inner
much.
journey, is to complete herself.
Mm-hmm.
Perfeito.
By
Gente,
taking pieces from all these other characters.
infelizmente a gente vai para nossa última pergunta, porque, Cris, a gente poderia ficar te escutando com certeza por muitas horas. Está sendo incrível passar essa manhã com você. Então eu vou chamar o Ian para fazer a nossa última pergunta de hoje.
Hello, guys. First of all, thank you, Seva, for this masterclass. Thank you, Chris. My doubt is specifically about the film. Is all about all the stories is about how you feel and connect. And I have this observation from the audience today that people aren't open to feel new things, to feel uncomfortable, to feel happiness, including is like a medium place. How do you see the way this impact how we tell stories to others and how we write them?
Well, yeah, I think that is a challenge for us now. I find it myself when I'm watching certain shows. I want to be stimulated. I want to be challenged, but I have a limit. And on some shows, I can't watch anymore because it's too disturbing. It's too intense, or I'm not ready for it. I'm watching a show now about an American young woman named Amanda Knox, who got in trouble in Italy and got all tangled up in the Italian legal system and had a tragic time in her life. And I had to stop watching because it was too much emotion for me at that time. But I respect it, and I will go back and I will study this. Why did it hit my buttons? Why did it overstimulate me? And I'm going to recognize there's something there for me to learn. So I wish that people would be open. So much of our entertainment just soothes us and tells us the world is basically nice and people are nice and everything's going to be fine. But I think we have to help educate our audiences to be challenged a little more. So sometimes you start with the sugar and then you give them the vinegar. So it's the mix of those things that can really overcome this resistance that people have. So it means maybe you seduce them to think your story is like all the other stories, and it's going to reinforce their ideas. And then you slip in the surprise, the unexpected thing, that the one you thought was the hero is actually the villain. The one you thought was the monster is actually the hero. I love this kind of subversive way of going, where you use their expectations and then you pull the string and bring some new idea into their world. So I wish you luck with that. That's a big challenge, but a good question. All
Thank you very much,
have been
Chris.
terrific. Yeah. So, obrigado, my friends. This has been terrific for me as well.
Yes.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak with a whole new crowd of friends in Brazil and around the world. Thank you.
Obrigado,
Thank you,
Cris.
Chris. We have no words to thank you for accepting the invitation and for your time. You were so kind and so sweet to share all your study here with us today. So thank you again very much. I will just say a quick goodbye for our audience. Então, gente, só lembrando rapidamente, esse é o livro, então, do Christopher Vogler, onde está todo esse estudo que ele nos apresentou aqui hoje e muito mais aprofundamento também. Se chama A Jornada do Escritor, Estrutura Mítica para Escritores, é publicado pela Seiva, que é a escola e editora que está promovendo essa aula. E como eu comentei no começo, talvez alguns não estivessem aqui, a gente está num mês especial, que é um mês em que a gente está com as inscrições abertas para a Vida do Livro, que é um curso de formação completo sobre o mercado editorial. Eu sei que tem muitos escritores e roteiristas aqui nos assistindo hoje, então a gente convida vocês a conhecer. Vocês estão num grupo com a gente vai mandar o link e mais informações certinho, a gente manda por e-mail também para vocês. E quem quiser, aproveita então o cupom VDL100 para garantir um preço especial ainda de pré-venda, especialmente aí para quem está nos assistindo hoje. Muito obrigada. Dani, você quer dar mais algum tchauzinho, mais algum
Agradecer
recado?
todo mundo e agradecer o Cris por estar aqui, foi muito especial e muito bonito. E a gente espera você aqui no Brasil, vir aqui no Rio visitar a gente um dia, quem sabe.
Oh, yes. I'm ready for that.
Tchau, tchau, pessoal. Até mais.
Tchau, pessoal. Bye, Chris. Thank you
Okay.
again so much.
Bye-bye.
We
Happy
really
journeys.
love it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.